Hi guys, my name is Leilani Madrigal. I'm 18 and a current senior at the Academy for Math, Engineering, and Science, and this is my Ames Journey. Before freshman year started, my dad made me go to freshman house, and surprisingly, I loved it. It was 3 days of fun, and I got to get acquainted with my teachers and my future classmates for the next 4 years. Since then, I knew Ames was just one big family. My first day of school, I was nervous, but because of freshman house, I did have a good group of friends. I was more confident and I was more comfortable around the halls. I trusted my teachers and I trusted my peers. I loved my classes and I got involved in sports. Freshman year was starting to go really well, and it ended up being great. When sophomore year began, I was already committed to 2 sports, cheerleading and competitive swimming. I got called the cheermer. Although it was hard, it was fun. People thought I was insane being an Ames student and taking on sports that were so involved and committed. Looking back at it now, they were right. It was exhausting. It was definitely a lot to take on. My days would start out as early as 5 a.m. for one practice and go as late as 8 p.m. for another. That's not including games, meets, or 2-a-day practices. My social life didn't make it any better. My parents started to thank friends, sports, and boys for the reason I started to decline in school. Maybe they were right, but maybe there was also something else. That same year, my parents made me pick one sport. It was becoming too much to handle, so I decided to resign my cheer captain position and quit cheer. It hurt, but I had to focus on swim. Socially, I was doing great. School was running smoother. I had my best high school and club season times for swim. I was happy with my cute little friend group. Ames was going great. That's up until I started to struggle again. I fell off. My grades slowly dropped, and I didn't feel myself. As my grades started to drop, I didn't know what else to do. No matter how hard I studied, I got frustrated with myself, my parents got mad at me, and I would get in trouble at school. As a sophomore, I was ready to give up. Slowly started to develop more symptoms that were noticeable. My teachers would tell me that they showed more during test. But what does that mean? I thought something was wrong with me. I used to be a good test taker and I was good under pressure. I was an athlete. I felt lost, I felt confused, and I was embarrassed, so I didn't tell anybody. When I finally opened up and told one of my best friends, she told me, "Have you ever heard of test anxiety?" I didn't want to jump to that conclusion. So it wasn't until sophomore year, second semester, when one of my favorite teachers, my chemistry teacher at the time, Miss Banks, confronted me after class and told me, "Leilani, you have test anxiety, and I had it too, so I want to help you in any way I can." Parent-teacher conferences came around and Miss Banks happened to tell my dad. Being the upfront person she is, I guess I could have expected it. She began to tell him that she noticed I did great on homework, but when it came to the test, I was always the last one, that I would get frustrated, and in the end I would have a low score. She looked me in the eye and told me that it's common for students to have this, and that it's just a bump in the road that I have to learn to deal with. And then she told me that she wanted to help me become the student that she knew I could be. Sophomore year, I discovered I was a student with test anxiety, and that test anxiety was a common thing with students. Thank you, Miss Banks, for setting my mind to ease. With Miss Banks' help, I learned I'm not a bad student after all. I just had to learn to manage and take control of this new thing about me. I had to take the next step and find a solution for my anxiety. Junior year, one of the most stressful but most important years here at Ames. You start driving, you're an upperclassman now, so you stand out more. You're working, kids come back more attractive, so you're dating. You have tougher classes. You have your PSAT and the ACT to worry about. And the most famous thing at Ames your junior year, you begin your internship. You're a busy kid. Personally, I thought I had it all figured out. Little did I know that was not the case. Honestly, junior year was a tough year, but I can honestly say my grades did get better, and the hard part was just keeping them up there. I knew what I wanted to do for my internship, and so I was ready for the year to start. Junior year was also the year I had to stop swimming. Not because I wanted to, my parents made me quit due to a shoulder injury. Every junior dreads the ACT. It's like it defines your future. And because of my test anxiety, I had already set my mind up for failure. That same year, I took the ACT for the first time in December. I did terrible, and my anxiety got worse. Carrie called me down to her office when she saw my score. After a long talk, we both decided we needed to look for better, more effective solutions other than just taking the test alone in another room. We needed to prepare for the school ACT day in February. We made a list of solutions on ways I could approach the ACT. First, rubber bands or hair ties for me to play with if I get anxious. Second, chew on gum. So I got myself a pack of gum and literally used half of that pack for that one test. Third, I remember to breathe, especially when my mind goes blank or I feel isolated. 4, remember that there's other kids taking the test around me too, that I can control myself. In the end, the main goal was just to get a better score than I did the first time. If it was by 1 or 2 points, at least it was improvement. Now I just had to combine my new strategies and the ACT studying skills, and hopefully third time's the charm. Going into this year, my goal was to graduate and make the most of it. I was excited. I wanted it to be like High School Musical, fun and easy. My schedule was light and I only had university classes and 1 or 2 Ames classes. The hardest part was not letting senioritis get to me early on. And I was already planning on taking my last ACT in October. A lot has happened this year, good and bad, and I've learned lessons through it all. But since this story is focused on test anxiety and me dealing with it as a student, let's fast forward to October of senior year, last ACT I was taking. My dad told me that whatever I got this third time, that was it. I studied, I did my pre-test, and then my dad told me, just give it your best. That's what I did. My best. I wrote down ACT tips from the back of the book, and I followed up on my test anxiety solutions that I did with Carrie. I got into that test room and I felt confident. I felt confident in myself, and I felt confident that test anxiety doesn't control me. I told myself, Leilani, you got this. I took a deep breath and I began my test. I went up by 3 points that last time, and even though it wasn't my ideal score, I pushed through it and I did do better. I gave it my best like my dad told me to, and I improved. My Ames journey has been full of ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster ride, but honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. It's made me a better person and prepared me for the real world. Ames has pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it's made me stretch in ways that I didn't even know I could. If it wasn't for my Ames teachers' support all these years, I wouldn't have managed dealing with my test anxiety. And if it wasn't for my sophomore year experience of finding it out with Miss Banks, I don't know where I would be. And if it wasn't for Ames, I wouldn't have learned the importance of self-confidence in myself, in my peers, in every aspect. I learned that it's okay to be different. Ames is all about being different. And I learned it's not okay to give up. Don't give up.